there's these broad predictions one can make about the future and what's going to come to pass and how we're going to come to see things. I will contend that I believe that we will eventually get to a point, and maybe, God forbid, it's post-America. I don't think that's the case. I think that we dodged a major, major death. If Biden had been reinstalled, or God forbid, Kamala Harris had been installed or even elected, I think we dodged the death of America. So it might be that we're in a pure comeback. And if we are, I think there's going to be a time where we write back the history of this, and maybe God willing, it's 40 years from now, that people sit in history classes and they go, wait, so the United States went through a period of time where our government wasn't just spinning things, but they were actually pushing lies in other countries to create the fall of those countries, to cause these color revolutions, up to the point of creating fake press organizations. There were entire publications that were nothing more than CIA fronts, paid for by USAID dollars. Imagine the study of that. When you study the propaganda of Nazi Germany, do you ever look back and go, how did they do that? Did you know that Adolf Hitler used to distribute LPs, records? His team was super smart on tech. And they looked and said that when do we get the most new signups? When do we get most people converting to being Nazis? It's when Hitler speaks. We got to get more people to see Hitler speak. Well, people aren't going to go to speeches. Oh, there's these new things called LPs. And people are purchasing record players to play them. Let's get Hitler on a record and go hand it out, like the AOL discs they used to push across the world. Remember, you couldn't get 5 feet without seeing an AOL disc. They were in hotel lobbies, they were in airplanes, they were in your mailboxes. If you look back at the photo they used of Hitler on the record, it looks a lot like the first photo sessions for the Beatles. The dramatic use of shadows, etc. It looks a lot like Che Guevara. In fact, the artist for Che Guevara, who took that picture, and Shepard Farley later turned that in and turned that into that iconic drawing. I think he was credited with saying, I saw what they did in the Hitler propaganda. So he was that way. And now we're doing it. I'll show you what I mean here in a second, because it's Rand Paul who says things in a way that only Rand Paul can. And then we'll get into something that came from Data Republican, who, by the way, has been doxxed and, of course, is being threatened. And so she's telling the world about who she is. We'll talk about that as well. All of this, of course, is corruption, and it's coming from a great, great, great period of corruption, and it's coming in the wake of Barack Hussein Obama making it legal for the American government to push and publish propaganda. Much of our financial system has been propaganda. There has been absolutely no rhyme or reason for many of the stock prices that we've seen. NVIDIA is a great example of this. Great company, but it's worth 30,000 times revenue? No, it's not. No, it's not. You are way behind the curve on what that company's ever going to have to do to earn that stock price. So that's the world we live in. And President Trump's seeking to right-size this, and he's doing some things that, to me, are crazy and offensive. I'm sorry, selling citizenship for $5 million, I can't buy that. I know a lot of people like that. I don't, but it's disruptive. And disruption is a great time. Volatility and this fight between President Trump and the empire, this is going to create massive volatility, in my judgment. I ain't no financial expert, but how could it not? Volatility can be your friend, believe it or not, for your retirement account. It can actually be a period of time in which you grow wealth in your retirement account. But you have to know how to deal with volatility. In my judgment, one of the best people in doing this is Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital Management. He does this by being insane about risk management. And that Bulwark is insane about it. And actively managing every portfolio, which can reduce risk and volatility and can help you profit from volatility. So if you're 5, 10, even 15 years from retirement, how about you go get a second opinion from what you might call the Department of Retirement Efficiency? This is a free live webinar Zach Abraham's putting on called The First 100 Days. He's going to cover all the rapid changes, in other words, volatility, what the long-term outlook looks for like for 2025, and he'll go through a full reveal of how Bulwark does what he does. It is free to attend. You simply have to register. It's coming up Thursday, March 20th. 3:30 Pacific, Thursday, March 20th. So go register right now. It's at knowyourriskradio.com, K-N-O-W, knowyourriskradio.com. Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, and SEC-registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 25-137. Rand Paul talks about a bit of corruption and what your tax dollars have been paying for, and I hope 40 to 50 years from now, our kids, or whether kids, or grandkids, or in my case, great-grandkids, are sitting there in school going, wow, the country got that bad?
$4.8 million spent in Ukraine for social media influencers. While you're at it, but the people who vote for this, I've voted against all of this, but the members of the Senate who voted for this spent several $100,000 sending designers in Ukraine to the fashion show in Paris. It goes on and on.
And in the case of the companies, the fake media companies in Ukraine, you were literally involved in discrediting a man who went online live streaming, being conscripted and beaten because he didn't want to join the army. You participated in calling him an anti-vaxxer. You participated in talking about him being an anti-conscription conspiracy theorist. I did too, because my tax dollars were given to USAID to go make this happen. Do you remember a journalist named Gonzalo Lira? He was in Ukraine. He was a critic of Ukraine's government. He had said, they're going to unalive me. And his own father said, they're going to unalive my son. And he wanted help getting his son out so that he didn't get unalived. He actually talked about how Zelensky received his funding.
You see, Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, well, the head of Kiev, because he is a head of Kiev, is actually a manufactured political figure. He was manufactured by a Ukrainian Israeli Cypriot oligarch called Igor Kolomoisky. Now, Igor Kolomoisky was the man who owns 1+1 Media here in Ukraine. And 1+1 Media is the company that financed and produced the TV show Servant of the People. And Servant of the People hired Zelensky, a well-known actor in Ukraine, an actor with zero political experience or even any political interest. Well, they hired him to play the role of the president in this show, Servant of the People. Now, Servant of the People had huge ratings, but a lot of people say that it was really weird, the amount of propaganda and PR that was done for the show. It was disproportionate to any other show of any channel. The amount of PR, positive press, and all the rest of it, it was really pushed on the people. Some people say it was completely astroturfed. Some people who know how to speak Ukrainian and who have watched the show have told me that it's a mildly enjoyable show, but no big deal. But anyway, the show was hugely popular. And it ran from 2015 to 2018. And almost seamlessly, Kolomoisky, the oligarch, created a party called Servant of the People, same name as the TV show. And their candidate was Zelensky, a man with no previous political experience and indeed no previous political interest. And Kolomoisky financed Zelensky to the point that Zelensky today is a billionaire. How many actors do you know are billionaires? I mean, I don't think that Tom Cruise is a billionaire and he's the most successful actor in the world, if he's just an actor. Zelensky is more than just an actor. He's the finger puppet of Kolomoisky, this oligarch. And do you know who Kolomoisky also financed to the tune of $50,000 a month, plus additional benefits of different sorts? Hunter Biden. Yes. In 2014, Burisma, the Ukrainian oil company, gas company, hired Hunter Biden to be on its board of directors to the tune of $50,000 a month. Who do you think controls Burisma? Kolomoisky, the same guy who manufactured Zelensky as president of Ukraine. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that. Hmm? Zelensky and Hunter Biden are spiritual cousins. They are bankrolled by the same guy. It's funny because both of them have drug addictions, pretty serious ones. Both of them get their money from Kolomoisky, and both of them are intimately involved in Ukraine. But here's the difference, of course. Zelensky doesn't have a dad who's president of the United States, now does he? Why do you think the White House, the United States, is freaking out so badly over Ukraine? In Ukraine, there are all kinds of secrets. In Ukraine, well, see, the more unsavory people in the Washington establishment have used Ukraine as their private piggy bank to the detriment of the Ukrainian people. They have financially Ukraine, stripping it of monies and assets needed by the people of Ukraine. And this is part of the reason that Ukraine is one of the poorest countries in Europe, if not the poorest country in Europe, because of the corruption, because of how Westerners have exploited it, Western politicians have exploited it. Hunter Biden, $50,000 a month. And you say to yourself, well, $50,000 isn't that much. Yeah, but $50,000 a year is the median household income in the United States. In Ukraine, a much poorer country, $50,000 a year would easily solve the problems of a good 4 or 5 families in Ukraine, the financial problems of those 4 or 5 families in Ukraine for a year. And Hunter Biden was getting that money per month just for himself.
It's weird that guy got unalived, isn't it? And that his dad had predicted he would be unalived. So if you go back to the very beginning of this segment and you talk about what we're paying about, did we pay to unalive him? Because we didn't pay to get him out. 40 to 50 years from now, when this story is told, God willing, I wonder what the role of Data Republican will be, a woman who is deaf and nonverbal, who's had to come out and admit who she is because she's been doxxed. She wrote this on Twitter. One thing I've come to understand is that the egregious situation persists because both sides benefit in some way. She's talking about money laundering. I'm working on indexing 2024 WinRed data as well. It might be an unpleasant surprise. Give Peter Bergner a follow and look at his website. And here's what Peter Bergner said. Yes, both sides are actively smurfing, i.e. criminally laundering money into the political campaigns. Rough percentages. Act Blue and liberals, 85% of the total monies. WinRed and Rhinos, 15%. Money's coming from the U.S. Treasury, Ukraine, U.S. aid, and others. I'll say this again, and Zach Abraham, my friend, and he's the chief investment officer, Boa Capital Management. We just talked about him. We've said for many, 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 many shows, you think the USAID audit's bad? Can you imagine what we would find if we were allowed to audit the Federal Reserve, the nation's so-called banking system? They can invent money and call it debt and force us to pay them back and give it to whomever they want. And we can't look into it. They are effectively inauditable. You're paying for a lot of things. And the people who are doing this are geniuses. Man, they're getting away with it. Except for the ultimate eye in the sky, not the NSA, God, who sees every transaction in detail, whose books are perfect, whose accounting system never fails. Oh, and it's not just the money he sees. He sees the motives, every single motive, and everything that they whisper in the dark will one day be shouted from the rooftops. And one day, every knee will bow, every tongue will confess. One day, they will kneel before the throne of judgment. And he might say something to these people along the lines of, so, let's talk about WinRed. I pray that people involved in this will repent, because all of us need to repent, because the kingdom of heaven, it's here.